India is one of the countries that is going to be the hardest hit even in economic terms. Medical costs, costs to agriculture, costs to informal economy, costs to infrastructure, costs even in terms of your defense preparedness. What is going to happen to those crops standing under the sun? Think of the farmer, think of the crop, think of the entire ecosystem, think of the insect responsible for pollination. Would they survive? What economic growth are we talking of? Any economic activity when the entire population has gone turbulent and there is mass civil unrest, 60% of the population will have nothing to feed itself. Now think of mass migration. Now think of unemployment. Does North India have industry? No. It depends mainly on agriculture. No river, no rain, and they'll be killing each other over water. What economic growth are we talking of? Three of your biggest metropolitan cities, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, are vulnerable to rising sea levels. When sea levels rise, they simply swallow up the city. That's it, finished. Game up. You have an underwater city now. Very meticulous in their data collection and in their projection. India is one of the countries that is going to be the hardest hit even in economic terms. What economic growth are we talking of being negligent of climate change? Medical costs, costs to agriculture, costs to informal economy, costs to infrastructure, costs even in terms of your defense preparedness. We must read of these things in detail. We are not only the world's most populous country, we are also the country where there is the biggest informal sector and the biggest proportion of population dependent on agriculture and allied industries. What is going to happen to those crops standing under the sun? Think of the farmer, think of the crop, think of the entire ecosystem. Think of the insect responsible for pollination. Would they survive? Think of the rivers. Not only is our big chunk of population dependent on agriculture, they are also dependent on the monsoons. Our crops do not get the support of irrigation. We depend on natural water, rivers and rains and tanks in South India. And climate change is going to disrupt the rainfall patterns it already has. How will there be crops at all? What economic growth are we talking of? There would be mass unrest. Can there be any economic activity when the entire population has gone turbulent and there is mass civil unrest? If it does not rain, the glaciers melt. When the glaciers melt, first of all, it would flood. And after the floods, there would be an unending dryness because now the rivers can't flow. The glaciers that are the sources of rivers do not exist anymore. How will the rivers flow? The rivers are not there, the rains are not there. Or there is just too much rain at the wrong place at the wrong time. From where will the crops come? And if the crops are not there, what economy are we talking of? 60% of the population will have nothing to feed itself. And if they have nothing to feed themselves, what will they do? They will rush towards other places. Now think of mass migration. Now think of unemployment. Now think of not just mass migration, that's a very meek word. This is called total displacement of large chunks of populations. Does the northern parts of the country have a lot of industry? Does North India have industry? No. It depends mainly on agriculture. No river, no rain. What will those people do? The 70, 80 crores of them, where will they go? And they'll be killing each other over water. Something as simple as water and food and grains. What economic growth are we talking of? Even manufacturing depends to a great extent upon natural produce. Textiles, for example. Show me, first of all, the manufacturing sector in India is quite small. But even there, show me how many industries are totally insulated from climate change. Please show me. So it's not just that agriculture would be demolished, even manufacturing. And services depend on the general population having some money to spend. Services cannot feed the service sector itself continuously, right? If the two other prominent sectors are going kaput, who will go and eat in a restaurant? Who will take a taxi? Who will hire a cook or a gardener? Are you getting it? Who will travel to tourist places? So what will happen to the service industry? What economy are we talking of? People think that the economy can keep not just afloat but growing irrespective of climate change. And we have not yet addressed the medical costs, sir. All kinds of diseases multiply, proliferate, intensify, become more probable under climate impact. You name it. From lifestyle ailments like cancer, like heart disease, like kidney disease, to bacterial diseases like TB, to viral diseases, everything would be exacerbated by climate change. Think of a virus that is lying hidden beneath a thick ice sheet or is lying hidden deeply below the soil in permafrost. And as the ice melts, the virus would be exposed. And that virus was sleeping there since millions of years. Millions of years. And now it would be exposed. What's worse is that you do not have immunity against that virus because this virus never came in contact with human beings, so human beings don't have immunity against that one. And that virus was happily sleeping beneath ice. Now that the ice has melted, the virus is out. Save yourself. We are talking of economic growth. What happened to economic growth during COVID? And thousands of such viruses are lying dormant in jungles, in caves, beneath ice sheets, below the soil, everywhere those viruses are there, and we are safe because we don't come in contact with them, but now they'll be released. 1966, Homi Jahangir Bhabha's flight crashed on mountains, the Alps. And not much could be found because everything was snow and ice there. Now slowly something intriguing is being seen. A lot of cafes are coming there based on Air India themes, because now the ice is melting. And not one but two Air India planes crashed there at the same spot, one in 1950, one in 1966. And the debris of both these planes is now getting exposed because of climate change, the ice is melting. So the local population is carrying those, and the airplane is a huge thing. So the local population is carrying away those parts. And using them in the designs of their fancy cafes. And a lot of things are now being found that were buried under the ice since long. Now the ice is no more. The ice is releasing everything that was being concealed by it. And those viruses will be out. And we are talking of economic growth. We have forgotten COVID. What economic growth? India's economic heart is Mumbai. And we know by how many centimeters the sea level has already risen. What will happen to Mumbai? That's the city that provides you with the maximum tax revenue. That's the city, that's your financial center. And the sea levels are rising. What economic growth? And your political capital is Delhi, that is vulnerable to the worst kinds of heat attacks. And we are talking of economic growth. Three of your biggest metropolitan cities, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, are vulnerable to rising sea levels. And vulnerability again is such a soft word. When sea levels rise, they simply swallow up the city. That's it, finished. Game up. You have an underwater city now. Or at least huge parts of the city will now be underwater. Run the city. North India, at least there is some backup that the glaciers are massive, the Himalayan ice sheets. So the glaciers will take some time melting, and till then the rivers will continue to flow. South India, the rivers depend not so much on ice but on rainfall. What happens when the rainfall patterns are disrupted? What will happen to all our South Indian rivers? Already you have had the two states fighting over Kaveri waters. The fight will be settled because there will be no water. And in north also, you have Delhi and Haryana squabbling over the Yamuna waters. If the future will have any history, then history will look at this period, the 21st century, with great astonishment. We who inhabit this century will be seen as utter idiots, caricatures in the name of human beings. And the future, if there is any, will ask us, how stupid could you be to not confront the facts, to keep denying the truth? We are a very special people at a very special time, doing our utmost to kill the whole planet. It's a very, very rare happening in the history of Earth. We are a very special people. We are very privileged, in fact. If there is a future, the future will remember us. These were the idiots.
We often hear that the like personal finance should be like a compulsory subject in it in like when we are in schools, but then now it seems like environmental education or self-education must be like the compulsory subjects that must be taught in schools.
You see, that's what. The science of climate change is not complicated, is it? It is so easy. Even a 10th grader can understand it. The problem is not so much of intellect or science or the problem is in the intent to acknowledge the obvious. The problem is that we lack inner honesty. The problem is not that we lack education or science. We lack inner honesty. And unless our entire system of upbringing, our culture is places emphasis and educates its kids in not accepting the false, whatever be the cost, there is no way inner honesty can develop. We might be very educated people. We might also know the facts really. But what to do when one knows the facts yet wants to deny them? Here the problem is not of education but of honesty, which means your education system is not teaching honesty. Your education system is only teaching them external things, nothing internal. You could be a scientist and yet a climate denialist. It's possible. You may have all the facts on your table and yet choose to push them aside.
Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you.